You know that little jolt of dread you get when your phone shows you your weekly screen time report? Yeah, we all feel it. Well, it turns out it's not just us. Governments all over the world are starting to feel that exact same anxiety. And because of that, we're seeing this brand new global trend, a whole wave of laws designed to get in there and manage our relationship with our screens.
So let's just dive right in with a pretty provocative question that really frames this whole conversation. Is screen time the new smoking? Now I know, it sounds super dramatic, but that powerful comparison is exactly what's pushing lawmakers around the world to finally take some serious action.
So why all the urgency all of a sudden? Well, the reasons are probably going to sound pretty familiar to you. There's this growing mountain of evidence that links our screen habits to some major issues, things like anxiety, terrible sleep, attention problems. But here's the real kicker. It's also about the addiction mechanisms that are intentionally built into these apps to keep us scrolling. And the group that's most vulnerable to all this, it's young people, of course.
So, in response to all this pressure, it's coming from parents, teachers, psychologists, you name it, governments are finally stepping in. They're creating a whole new category of regulation that you could call digital detox laws.
So what are these, really? Well, at their core, these are laws that force the tech platforms, we're talking your TikToks, your Instagrams, your online games, to build restrictions right into their products for younger users. The really key idea here is to flip the script, to shift the responsibility away from just the user and put it back on the companies that design these addictive platforms in the first place.
But here's the thing, this isn't just happening in one place. It's a truly global thing, and the approaches are radically different depending on where you look. So let's take a quick trip around the world.
We have to start with the most extreme example out there, China. Over there, the government has taken a very direct, very top-down approach to enforcing these digital limits. No messing around.
Get this, on Douyin, which is China's version of TikTok, if you're under 14 years old, the app just logs you out after 40 minutes. End of story. And it's not just social media. Online gaming for kids is also under a super strict curfew. They get just 1 hour a day and only on the weekends. Wild, right? Okay, now let's hop over to the United States, where the approach is, well, completely different. There's no single big federal law on this. Instead, all the action is happening at the state level, which is creating this really complex, kind of messy patchwork of rules all across the country. You've got states like Utah that have really been leading the charge. They passed laws requiring parents to give their consent for kids to even have an account. They even brought in a social media curfew between 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. Now, California, on the other hand, is taking a slightly different tack. They're focusing more on the design of the platforms, basically forcing them to make child well-being the default setting.
And that idea, that focus on design, the European Union is taking that same concept and running with it, but on a massive continent-wide scale. Their strategy isn't really about hard time limits. It's about getting to the root of the problem and tackling the addictive designs of the apps themselves.
And this whole strategy is built around their landmark law, the Digital Services Act, or the DSA. It actually forces platforms to limit addictive design features, like autoplay videos and that infinite scroll that never, ever ends. It also bans targeted advertising for minors and requires companies to give parents much better control tools. So, as you can probably imagine, all of these new laws have sparked a massive debate, and it really boils down to a classic conflict. Where do you draw the line between protecting kids and preserving personal freedom online?
To really get into that debate, you have to understand the tools these laws are actually using. The whole fight is being fought over a few key mechanisms, things like those time-based curfews, requiring parental sign-off, making platforms verify a user's age, and forcing them to turn on protective features by default.
And this right here, this is the central conflict. On one side, you have supporters arguing these laws are just essential for protecting mental health, for improving sleep and focus, and for empowering parents. Not to mention, they could save billions in future healthcare costs. But, on the other side, critics are raising some very serious concerns. They're worried about the huge privacy risks that come with age verification, potential infringements on free speech, and they argue this just shifts responsibility away from parents. And of course, there's the big question looming over all of it. Won't tech-savvy kids just figure out a way around the rules anyway? So, with this debate just raging on, what happens next? What should we expect as we all try to shape the future of our digital lives?
Well, 3 things seem pretty likely. First, this whole trend of digital detox laws is probably going to expand to more and more countries. Second, the tech companies themselves. They're going to start introducing more of their own controls and tools, trying to self-regulate to avoid even stricter government rules down the line. And third, we are absolutely going to see some major court battles over these laws, as everyone tries to find that really difficult balance between protecting children and protecting our digital rights.
Which, brings us right back to that opening question. When you look at all of this, the health concerns, the government intervention, the industry pushback, you have to wonder, are we witnessing a digital tobacco moment? That specific point in history where society decides that the potential harm of a product that's everywhere is great enough to regulate it for the public good. The final answer isn't written yet, but one thing's for sure, this debate is just getting started.